You know the old line, can you please go into the boutique and get them to write you a letter to say it's fake? No one's going to do that. Hey everyone, a couple of years ago I spoke about fakes, and I want to revisit the topic because some of you will be aware that Louis Vuitton, back in March 2021 this year, they introduced, instead of the serial numbers, date code that is normally on the reverse tags in their bag, little leather tag, they've removed that, and instead they've put in these tiny radio frequency ID chips. So there is now nothing in the bag apart from the bag logo with the label on it, and somewhere sandwiched between the leather is a little chip that to people that work at LVMH, they have an app that they can at a distance, I don't know, scan the bag with, and it comes up with information about the bag, when it was made, where it was made. Speaking mainly about fakes though, the super fakes that are out there, and how I think that social media has massively, since that video I did in 2018, social media I think is a big thing that is to blame for the rise in fakes, specifically in super fakes. So what is a fake? There are actually technically 3 different types of fake. You have a replica. Sometimes you see it in the likes of River Island and things like that. Right now they have got replicas of Lady Dior bags, Gucci, you know, the double G kind of cardigans, monogram print, they've got all of that, and it's replicas. It isn't taking the actual brand logo and using it in a way that is counterfeit to intellectual property, but they are taking and they're making something that's very close to it. Then the third type of fake, which is something that I've heard quite a lot. It's the notion from the seller that the bag you're thinking of buying is technically genuine because it's been made in the same factory using the same component parts as the real thing. And what they're insinuating is that the person who's selling it to you works in the factory or knows someone who works there, and over the course of time they've managed to steal enough pieces of cut out material to put together not one bag but like a whole bunch of them, but they've all been made from the real component parts. This is simply not true. If you think that the people working in these factories for Chanel or wherever can walk in and just walk home with the metal logos that go on the front and the quilted leather, it doesn't happen. Even staff that work in the boutiques have told me that when they go in the morning they are security checked, and when they leave at the end of the day they're security checked. Even I know a lot of the people that work in Harrods have told me that they have to use a see-through plastic bag to keep all of their stuff in. No one is allowed to go home with anything, and the same thing will go in these factories. Duping people, that's really what it's about. Now I'm going to tell you a short story about something that happened to me. I've always been into designer goods, going all the way back. I really like, and I always have done, I like the concept of being able to buy one bag that's going to last and it's iconic. And I always had that notion, and I think I told you that way back in the day, one of my favourite brands was River Island. And I was always, even when I was a teenager and I really wanted this stuff, I was aware that I wasn't confident in walking into a boutique and saying, can I have a look at that bag? You know, being 16 and then being like, well, no, because you're like a kid and you're never going to buy it. I was not going to do that. And therefore I was aware that I didn't actually know what these bags looked and felt like in real life. And I had a friend years ago who bought a bag out the back of someone's car, who'd sold it as, it's real but it's stolen. She thought it was real because she'd been told that it was real and it was stolen. And she thought it was real also because she was comparing it to photos of it being carried by, you know, like Paris Hilton and stuff in magazines, but actually found out that when you compared it to the real thing, which she did because her sister-in-law ended up buying the real thing, and when they compared them, she was very embarrassed about how obviously fake hers looked, because that wasn't the intention of her buying it to look fake. The intention of her buying it was that she wanted it to look real. Now, when I was back at that age, I was aware of that, and I thought I would be really embarrassed to kind of go out thinking that I've got a designer bag and no one knows, and then someone sees it and actually it looks really obvious. And I would rather have bought a bag of a lesser price that looked just as good but wasn't fake. So I used to buy River Island bags and I loved them. I loved the colours, I loved the designs, but they were made out of PU plastic. And what I was finding is that the interiors were lined with a canvas that was covered in some sort of paint. And after a while, the paint would flake off in these big chunks and you'd be like peeling it off on the inside. And the outside, because it was plastic, it used to start cracking and it used to look tired very quickly. So within 1 year, I found myself buying a lot of these bags. And at the time, those bags were £20, which for me, that was 2 weeks' salary. Sorry about this, long story. My desire to have a designer bag was that I associated them with chic, elegance, class. My grandmother, she was like really glam, and she had one bag and it was a crocodile bag by some brand, I can't remember, and she bought it back in the 50s and she always dug it out. It looked fantastic. It made her outfit look amazing. It was the one and only bag she had, and it had held together. And because it was by an iconic brand, it added something to her outfit. And that's what I aspired to. I didn't aspire to have designer logos so that people looked at me and thought something of me, like I was rich or anything. I wanted it because at the time, there wasn't social media. They weren't all over the place. They weren't commonplace. They were very exclusive, but they were very long term. They weren't going to wear out. They weren't going to break. But I got seriously screwed really with buying a fake unknowingly on eBay. And this all happened a long time ago, and thankfully I did get my money back, but it was really, really touch and go. I had some savings of £500, which took me like a million years to save. I really wanted to get, so the bag in my head was I wanted to get a Chanel classic flap, and I just wanted it to be plain black, medium size, just like really sweet. And I was looking for ages, and whenever I would look, I didn't know how much the bag was in the store. And that kind of information wasn't online at the time. I didn't know how much they were. So I was looking on eBay, and for all I know, in hindsight, people might have been charging more than they actually were. I didn't know. I also didn't know what they looked like. So I'm already on a losing streak when it comes to, if you buy something that's fake, or if you buy something that's way more expensive than it actually is, or if you buy something that's way cheaper than it actually is, they could all be warning signs that you're not even aware of. So I'm looking for this bag. I eventually found one that was within my budget. Well, it was a bit over my budget, but I remember negotiating, and what, in hindsight as well, what was weird is the person selling it came down really quickly to the £500 that I had to spend. They didn't even really quibble over it, and I remember this lady, she was based in London, and she was so sweet, like so nice, and the pictures, she had the bag and it was next to a boutique bag, and I thought, oh, I've wanted this forever and now I'm finally gonna get it. And I paid the money, and again, she was being really sweet. She was kind of saying, here's the tracking number. And when it turned up, I was actually working a part-time job at the time, and I used to sometimes phone my mum at lunchtime, and my mum was like, I think your Chanel bag's here. And I was so excited, I couldn't wait to get home. Rushed home, opened it in the kitchen, just there and then opened it, and my heart fell through the floor. Because the minute I opened it, despite the fact that I didn't have a clue about really what this bag was like, I knew immediately it was fake. The boutique bag that was in the photos wasn't there. I don't even think the picture that she'd listed was the bag, because I went and compared it and there were subtle differences. It was in a very flimsy drawstring dust bag that had Chanel written on it in the font, in a slightly different font, and it wasn't printed straight on the bag. The bag, just, you could tell it was fake, and I remember thinking, I've spent £500 on this. That is all of my money. And this person who had been so nice, and she put sweets in with it and stuff. Like, she must have known that I was like really young and a bit naive. She put all sweets in it. And that in itself made me feel really bad for having to email her and having to ask my money back, because she'd been so nice and she put like all like sweets and stuff in it. And I emailed her immediately on eBay, and she wrote back the nastiest message. because I'd said to her, oh, I think I need to return this to you because, you know, there's just some, I didn't tell her I think it's fake because I didn't want to start World War III. I was just like, oh, I need to return this because it's not quite like the picture. And she wrote this horrible message, and I remember her going, ha ha ha, I've sold you a fake and you didn't even realise, enjoy your fake bag. And then she shut down her eBay account, and there was nothing I could do. And she left me negative feedback, and it was like trolling feedback, kind of, you know, hilarious. I did you over. And when I looked at her feedback, which I should have done before she closed her account, pretty much all of it, she hadn't had an account for very long, and most of the feedback was negative. I know I should have looked, but I was very excited. It took me ages. I phoned PayPal, and I told them what had happened, and I got into an awkward situation because PayPal said, well, it's very difficult for you to be telling us it's fake because whilst we believe you, in order to get your money back, we need proof. So you're gonna, you know the old line, can you please go into the boutique and get them to write you a letter to say it's fake? No one's going to do that. And I am certainly not going to ask. If I had the confidence to have gone into Chanel for the first time, I'd have done it. If you think I've got the confidence to go in there now with my blatantly fake bag and ask for a letter, you are wrong. Anyway, PayPal was so good, and I remember it took months, and there was a point where PayPal said that I was not going to get all of the money back, but I'd get some of it. And they said the problem was this particular person had withdrawn all of the money from their PayPal account, so there wasn't any there to return it. But then what PayPal had done is they put a hold on her account, so she couldn't use it. Problem with that was that she didn't need to use it because she'd obviously let it go dormant and had maybe set up another one. So it went on a really long time, and I can't remember how I managed it, but I did get my money back, and I got left with this fake bag, and I think I gave it to a charity shop or something. But I knew for myself, I'm not going to carry that round because to me there's nuances about it that look really fake, and I want the real thing. So that's kind of a story of how I got duped. If you're buying a belt and it's £20 and it's from Gucci and you know it's fake, that's your choice. My real problem is when super fakes are sold as the real thing to unsuspecting customers. So let's say a Chanel medium flap is, I think it's currently 5,500. I've seen examples on eBay where there are bags that are very good, but you can kind of tell they're fake, and they're being sold for 4,000. So the person buying them thinks they're saving £1,500, but actually they're not, because they're buying a super fake. Fakes over the last couple of years, or over the last 2 years, I feel have gone through the roof. There was a time back in the day where the fake counterfeit market was a really shadowy, shady place. There were well-known places globally, you know, Canal Street in New York, and typically you're kind of led round to a shady back room where they've got all of the stuff lined up there. I knew when I was at university, there were students there that used to sell fake stuff from the boots of their cars, and that was what they did for a living. And I was just like, where are you even getting them from in the first place? That's why the friend I was talking about that I was in halls with had bought this fake bag. To me, the problem with social media is that social media, Instagram, YouTube, you don't need anymore to go into a boutique to buy your first bag. You can go and look, you can go and get up close and personal on YouTube, see someone unboxing it, see what the wrapping should look like, see what the inside of the bag should look like, and then give yourself a fair amount of knowledge. And you know, even when people tell you how much it is, you are then armed with that information. Back then, that wasn't there. What's changed with social media is this demand. Designer goods in this community, I've spoken about this before, but it can feel like everyone has got a designer handbag, and the fact is they do not. If you go and walk outside, most people don't have them. The reason why it feels like everyone does is because if you're in this particular community, it's what you see. But this drive of consumerism and the you know, the amazing pictures you get on Instagram of people putting together really lovely outfits with the latest bag. It's a drive to make you want. And with these designer bags, they feel like fast fashion. In real life, they're not. They feel like fast fashion here, but in real life, they're not. And what this has done, and in the craziest place, is suddenly the ability to buy fakes, it's not in the shadows anymore. It's, if you go on Etsy, they are all over Etsy. Amazon have got a really big problem with it. eBay have really cleaned up, although I have still seen on there some that slip through the net every so often. Instagram is a really big place as well. And if you're, when I'm on my, when I'm scrolling and I've got to the end of the feed, all these other relative pages come up, and there's so many pages selling fakes. But what, they're really clever with it because they don't admit they're fakes. And they invite you to contact via WhatsApp, and they want payment via Western Union, and it's all not tracked and you've got no comeback. And the amount of money that they want for these bags, because they're not telling you they're fake, but they want £500 for a Chanel classic flap. £500 is a lot of money. And you would think, well, it can't be fake because a fake's up to £100. So it must be real. And this is part of the plot, I think, and this is how I got done, is that they charge a high price, which makes you think, oh, it can't be fake, because it looks real, it looks really good. And that price isn't fake money. But I've learnt my lesson, and I'm thinking, well, a Chanel bag that's £5,000, at 500, it's a fake. And that's a lot of money to be paying for a fake bag. The dark side to all of this, and this is the bit that I was telling you about, which when I was reading up about it a couple of years ago, I simply didn't believe it. I saw it, I remember seeing it on one web page, and I was like, no, that is a nonsense, that is crazy. And I kept looking, and here is the thing that I think on top of it all adds an element of, I can't believe that. The factual elements, the actual facts about the profits from these items, where they really go to. And this was the bit that I was most shocked about. I'm going to put some kind of quotes here, and as I say, I'm going to link to this below. The United Nations on Drugs and Crime have found evidence that some entities that deal in these kind of bags, you know, selling of fake designer goods, they're also people that are involved in people trafficking, drugs smuggling, arms smuggling, like weapons. I've even found information that links to these groups even doing things like sex trafficking, where they traffic in children and women. They could be it. You think that these people are in a whole different country. They could be in your country. They could be in the UK. They are in the UK. They could be in France. They could be in the States. And the sad thing is that they're over here, and none of us even know they exist. None of us know where they are, and probably none of us never will know where they are, and they're living miserable lives. And you think to yourself, well, how could a bunch of fake designer stuff, that seems a bit prissy. Why would a load of fake designer stuff be used by thugs to do that? Because it seems like weird. But if you think about it, most of these places want you to pay cash, or they want you to pay Western Union. They want you to contact via WhatsApp, with the exception of items being sold on places like Amazon and Etsy, where you actually have to pay through those platforms. There's really no comeback. And my thoughts are more so, I think, I would imagine the places selling on Amazon and Etsy, those people selling there are not the people trafficking. They're people that have probably bought stock off the people trafficking and doing all of that stuff, and they're not really aware of it, and they're selling it for a profit. But in doing so, they're kind of fueling that constant supply and demand. I've also been told by a couple of people that I know who are SAs of various places, and they have told me that there is a problem with people buying, get this, they've got a problem, and I think this is why LVMH have done the chip thing. Guys, listen. They have a problem with people buying bags, going home with them, returning them, saying that they're rubbish or they want their money back, and the bag in the box is fake. So what they're doing is they are buying the real thing, they're replacing it with a fake, and they have the brazenness to go back to the store and claim that that's what you sold me and I want my money back. And one person in particular who said this happens a lot, said that on occasion it ends up being a standoff because the people that do it are so aggressive about it, because they know if they back down and confess it's fake, they're going to be in so many issues with the police, etc. So it's in their interest to be aggressive about it, to be pushy about it. They're going to keep going. It's like, I'm in this now. If I back down and say, yeah, all right, I'm going to go now, they're going to call the police. Security are going to get called. Security have probably already been called. And this is part of it. And that is why I think LVMH have done this with the microchips. And I'm going to talk about that in a whole other video. So that is the truth about fakes. There is no judgment on anyone that does or does not buy them. And I just thought it was quite an interesting topic. Please let me know what you think below. And everyone be respectful. I know that that you all are, but you know, if someone's into buying fakes and they've got a different opinion, just be nice. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video.